There we go, so official. Thank you, everyone. So we are in our presentation today about where to turn, responding to culturally diverse needs of older adults experiencing elder abuse. This month is Family Violence Month, and the theme for this month is where to turn, as that is part of our title for today's presentation. If you would like to find more resources, there's some available on the Alberta government website, and I will ask Colleen to put that link into our chat box so that if you're interested in finding more resources on this Family Violence Prevention Month, you can go there and access that as well. Elder abuse falls within the umbrella of family violence, and it's important for individuals experiencing this form of family violence to understand where to turn, and also for service providers and community members to have a good understanding of what might be available to access in your own communities or within the province when a situation of elder abuse is brought to your attention. So this session will explore culturally diverse approaches to engaging and working with older adults who may be experiencing or at risk of experiencing elder abuse. Our presenters today will share their emerging best practices in supporting immigrant seniors and culturally diverse older adults. We've got a very full agenda, as you can see, so we're going to get right into it. I'm going to stop sharing at this point just so that we can see everybody's face, and it might help us to be able to see our presenters a little bit better. It is my pleasure to begin today by introducing Minister Josephine Pon. Minister Pon was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta on April 16, 2019 as the MLA for Calgary-Beddington, and was appointed as Alberta's Minister of Seniors and Housing on April 30th, 2019. She has more than 20 years of experience in the banking industry, both in personal as well as commercial banking. She has also worked with more than 230 branches and over 3,000 staff in the Prairie region. Minister Pon has actively volunteered with numerous nonprofit organizations in Calgary and Edmonton throughout her life. She was a member of the working group on the Edmonton's Mayor's Task Force to Eliminate Poverty, the board chair of Immigrant Services Calgary, chair of the Immigrant Services Calgary Immigrants of Distinction Awards Gala, vice president of the Hong Kong Canada Business Association, and cultural advisor for the Glenbow Museum. And we are so thrilled that Minister Pon is able to join us today. Thank you, Minister, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Hello, can you hear me, Chantel?
Oh, yes, we can. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yet after 200,000 times of virtual meeting for the last 24 months, which I still having a problem unmute myself because of the COVID issue. Good morning, everyone. This is so exciting to see everyone again. Thank you so much, Chantel, and it is a good morning. It's my great pleasure to bring a greeting on behalf of the Premier Jason Kenney and my government colleague that the game of today's event is close to my heart, seniors. As a Minister of Seniors and Housing, I take the safety and the security very seriously. We had prior to 2020, close to 1 in 10 Alberta seniors were subject to elder abuse. The stress, isolations, and financial pressure that have accompanied the COVID-19 pandemic have made the difficult situation worse. Family violence, including the elder abuse, tend to increase during and after the natural disaster, public health crisis, and the economic downturn. It has never been more critical to stop elder abuse in all of its forms. Family Violence Prevention Month highlights the importance of the knowing where to turn for support. There are now more than 690,000 seniors in Alberta, a group within the incredibly diverse cultures and backgrounds. Each victim of elder abuse has their own story and their own obstacle in the way of getting support. There will never be a one-size-fits-all approach to this event. Today, each of you bring your own knowledge and expertise to the complex reality of elder abuse. It will take a great deal of collaborations to find solutions. Each of your voice are needed at this table. Alberta's government is also working on a new provincial plan to help to put a stop to elder abuse. We recently consulted with the stakeholders and to the public to create a new definitions of elder abuse. The first step is developing a unified approach. The results are currently under review, and I look forward to sharing what we heard from with you and from the general public. For everyone who has already provided input, thank you so much. We will keep you updated as the development of our plan progresses. And the senior should be most cherished members of their communities. And while each case of elder abuse is a tragedy, I feel a lot of hopes knowing incredible talent like all of you and dedicated people in this room here, like all of you are working on solutions. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join today. I hope all of you benefit from listening, sharing, best practice, learn from each other. Our governments will keep working alongside with you to help give the seniors the respect and dignity they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Pon. We really appreciate you bringing greetings and for your words in this really important time that we recognize Family Violence Month and how interconnected it is with elder abuse and the importance of recognizing this so that we can start the work in addressing it. So I'm going to share my screen. The next piece is just a little bit of information that the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council would like to share with you about an exciting new resource that we've just recently developed. And I'm going to give remote access if I can do that. Everybody can see my screen that I've shared there, hopefully. And Colleen, I think I've given you access now if you'd like. So the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council is excited to be able to announce that we will be releasing a new resource this month for older adults in Alberta who are experiencing or at risk of experiencing elder abuse. November is Family Violence Prevention Month, and the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council wanted to assist older adults and their families to learn what resources are available to them if they are experiencing abuse. In the most recent prevalence study, it was determined that almost 1 in 10 older adults experiences elder abuse each year. Between 2009 and 2018, family violence against seniors increased by 11%. With our population aging, these numbers represent a significant segment of people experiencing violence in their later years. The Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council is proud to present the Staying Safe, a resource for older adults living in Alberta handbook. This handbook is designed for older adults to have a roadmap to the many possible issues that they may face if they are experiencing elder abuse. It explains their rights, how to access resources, and uses stories to illustrate the information. Older adults have often expressed feeling overwhelmed when trying to gather information and navigate the many complex systems that can be involved in getting assistance when someone is experiencing abuse. This handbook is meant to bring together the information about a wide range of issues, provide a basic overview of the important information, and provide references on where to learn more information about these different topics, as well as get further assistance. Some of the areas covered in this handbook are emergency information and safety planning, decision-making rights, immigrant rights, getting legal help, income assistance, and much more. Everyone deserves to be safe and treated with respect. This handbook was created to help older adults identify an unsafe or abusive situation and understand their rights and options available. Each situation is different and complex. Therefore, this handbook contains a variety of resources that will provide additional information and assist to connecting with organizations and experts that can help to navigate each unique situation. A large component of that work, which you will hear more about today, is the services provided and the approach taken when working with older adults from culturally diverse backgrounds. This handbook, as this is a soft launch today, is currently only available in English. However, the Council is hoping that if this document is useful, that we will be able to work with other organizations and translators to offer it in a variety of languages. Additionally, we are working on recording an audible version so that individuals who are not literate in English may still be able to access the information. And again, if it would be helpful and there's a need for it, we may also look to do it in a different language, in particular languages that may be not as much written languages and more verbal. To begin with, we're just going to be able to have a downloadable version as well as this flip version, which will be available through our website, the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council's website, which is www.albertaelderabuse.ca, beginning next week. So this is your preview for that document, but you can watch for it next week coming to our website. And then additionally, we will also be able to have it in print form. And so if you are a representative from an organization that might find that helpful when you're working with older adults, you can also email Colleen and she will add you to a list when we have available for distribution, which we anticipate from January 2022. So thanks so much. We were excited to be able to share that with you today. And we really wanted to make it kind of a part of the conversation that we're having today so that we can add to the resources that might be available for people to access and to be able to use in supporting older adults who are experiencing elder abuse. We are flying right along, which is wonderful because as I mentioned, we have such a full agenda today. So next up we have Sohila, who is going to be sharing with us, and I'm just going to load up her PowerPoint here and then I will introduce Sohila as well. And I just need to give Sohila remote access here. Just bear with me one moment if you don't mind. So Sohila Lusif is a gateway manager with Immigrant Services Calgary. She has over 20 years experience in project management, business development, and operations management in the sectors of education, oil and gas, and nonprofit. A feminist at heart and a strong advocate for social justice and inclusive diversity to promoting communities, we are welcoming Sohila and thanking her for joining us today. We look forward to what you have to say. Sohila, take it away.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. And in fact, since the first meeting we had, to talk about what we want to do in this meeting, I got very excited. And the first thing I did was to go back and try to refresh, my knowledge and understanding of elder abuse. And I wanted to see, what the literature has brought to us. To my surprise, we don't have much literature and research done on elder abuse, and especially on elder abuse in immigrant communities. The latest research I've seen was dated 2010, and some of the data that I'm going to share with you today are from the early 2000s. Just to give you a perspective that we have a lot of information missing when we talk about elder abuse and the people impacted by it. Then my first question was to myself was, how big is the problem? And this is where, I really wanted to share with you some of that before going to talk about what we do at ISC when it comes to elder abuse awareness or prevention. I'm just trying to move. Okay. As Minister Josephine Pon mentioned, 10% of seniors in Canada are victims of crime each year. These numbers are from 2004. Then you can imagine 16 years later, with all the crises that we have been facing, these numbers are expected to be increasing. Abuse can be physical, emotional, or financial. It can be classified under the criminal code if it takes the form of fraud, assault, or sexual assault. More numbers. Only 45% of seniors report experiencing some form of abuse from the age of 65. Then this is only half of the picture that we have. We have other people, other seniors experiencing and going through that horrific experience, but not reporting on it. It seems like financial abuse exploitation and emotional abuse are the most prevalent form that the seniors go through. And as I said, just because of the numbers that we are seeing, seniors are less likely to report being victims than non-seniors. Most of the time, the perpetrators are people that these seniors know. Family members, friends, people that they know already. Then where are the areas of vulnerabilities for our elders? As I said, financial crime by strangers, crime and abuse by relatives and caregivers, and crime and abuse in institutional settings. Again, final crimes by strangers, I think we all have been experiencing that in some sort, but it's more prevalent within seniors population. Crimes and abuse by relatives and caregivers include a full range. It's really a wide range of areas where people are very vulnerable. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be sexual, and it can be just financial exploitation and neglect. So how does it look for immigrant seniors? Election Canada has showed us that in 2010 stated that immigrant seniors are more susceptible to elder abuse. In fact, 28% of seniors in Canada are immigrant. The language barrier and the cultural differences prevent access to help. Also, the fact that these seniors mainly come under the sponsorship of their relatives and they stay under this sponsorship for so many years, there is more prevalence for them, being under, under this abuse for a longer time and not able to get out of it. Again, according to the same report that I was talking about, and according to some papers I was looking at, the issue of elder abuse for immigrant seniors is just beginning to come out of the closet. We know that elder abuse is not a new phenomenon, but for immigrants, this has been and still is a hush-hush subject. We don't talk about it. We are only coming to know about it because there are more possibilities for immigrants, seniors now, to go and access English classes and some recreational programs, because people have means to communicate and have a forum where they can talk about what's happening and understanding that this is not right. In this article as well, what I found out that the majority of the abuse is verbal and violation of personal right. It's less physical, less sexual assaults, but it's more verbal and violation of personal rights. Again, as I said, elder abuse is not a new phenomenon, but we are getting to hear about it from immigrant communities more and more. One thing that we need to keep in mind is we cannot talk about elder abuse for to a Canadian-born senior in the same way to a non-Canadian-born senior. And this is why we talk about the difference, the cultural differences, because culture matters. Most of our older immigrant may not recognize when they are victim of abuse. They often don't know their rights. their legal rights and their human rights. They don't know what kind of resources they can access or resources that they are eligible for. The language, the social isolation, the financial and emotional dependency, and the social cultural factor may make them more prevalent to abuse. Again, elder abuse in immigrant communities is underreported. We talked about elder abuse in general not being reported to 100%. We saw that 45% only of elder seniors reporting on them being victimized or going through this horrific experience. In immigrant communities is even less, just because of the way the construct of these communities. It can be related to family honor, and I'm going to cite you some examples that we hear from our elders that we see all the time. A strong reliance on family members for support, because they don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to report, but I'm going still to be living under the same roof. What is going to happen to me? I cannot go somewhere else. Or maybe because they don't know that they can go somewhere else. Like, it's also not knowing what are the options. In a lot of cultures, silence, personal shame, and secrecy are very common when it comes to abuse, let alone when it comes to elder abuse. We don't talk about it. Few things that we heard about, and this is in the literature, but also from a session of brainstorming that I did with my team, who have a seniors program that they facilitate and they manage, was those comments. Many of our immigrant seniors don't have an idea what elder abuse is. Adult children, there is an expectation. Then because I sponsored you, you're going to clean, cook, look after my kids. And seniors don't even question that status, or they don't think that they are having the right to question that status. Seniors don't know they can access financial help. I'm putting quotes here because this is what we heard. And when they do, an example here, my son-in-law says that I'm a widow and why should I have anything under my name? Then even if you are accessing financial help, it is not necessarily your money. It goes to somebody else. Another lady would say, here, I was put down and that made me very unhappy. But I only have my daughter and I cannot leave her and go. And my grandchildren need me. I didn't want to leave the house because I was very attached to my grandchildren. People say we shouldn't tell about the abuse to anyone because it's a disgrace. I never told anyone. Won't even cry louder when he beats me. They say they would send me to a nursing home. These are the quotes that we hear. Then when we talk about immigrant communities or immigrant seniors, we have to keep in mind, we are dealing with something completely different. There are this cultural aspect that we need to take into account. And honestly, we don't know much, about the strategies that we can take or the tactics we can use to overcome that. And this is where I talk about the gap. Oh, I missed this one, sorry. The gap, not enough research done to understand this phenomenon. Elder abuse awareness prevention, not a one size fits all. And I heard Minister Josephine Pons say that, I just smiled because it's true. We cannot treat it like, similarly when it comes to immigrant communities. The good news, however, is there is a study that hopefully will come out August 2022. It's a 6-year study done in New York University that is going to talk specifically about developing a comprehensive understanding of elder abuse prevention in immigrant communities. And I'm looking forward to it. When I saw that, I said, I will be I'll mark my calendar and I will look for it. And this study is going to address 2 aspects. The first one is develop a comprehensive classification of risk factors for elder abuse in immigrant communities. But the good news is it's also going to identify the most appropriate and culturally relevant strategies to address the risk factors. Because this is where we miss. And we do, everyone who is in the sector are doing what they can or what they know to do, but we are missing out on a lot of elders that are going through this experience, but they are not getting access to help. The good news as well is research have shown that social participation, social and civic participation have a tendency, to help seniors get over, the abuse. They can report it. Sorry, I think I touched something. Seniors who are coming together in groups are able to make friends, are able to make connections, are able to learn about what's available to them. And therefore, are able to talk about these events when they take place, are able to maybe ask for help more often, or even are able to learn strategies to stop it and say, this is not right. We know as well that access to places of worship decreases isolation for seniors. But from what we have been reported, a lot of seniors are not allowed, when they are in a situation of elder abuse, they are not having access. That's a form of abuse as well, not having access to go to those places or to just get out, because there is so much to do in the house, because this is where they were brought in. Then with all this in mind, what is our approach in ISC? Our approach, we have different folds. In September, we had the go live for a gateway, which is a new initiative that approaches settlement for newcomers in a completely different way. When we do a personalized plan for newcomers to help them unleash their potential and settle within Canada, we make plans for the whole household, including the elders. Our first action, who is part of this household? It's the bread maker, the one that goes for work, the spouse, and we also ask about the elders. And we are hoping with that new holistic approach that we are going to access to more seniors, immigrants, and educate them in things that they can access, including their rights, including even community resources that they can go to from day one. The other thing that we do is create opportunities to volunteer. Today, 5% of our active volunteer community are volunteers are seniors. It's a small percentage, but we are working towards creating even more opportunities. Just in information, we have about 1,500 active volunteers, and it's close to 100 that are seniors, 65 years and above. In our seniors programs, we have 3,000 seniors attending per year. And that's an average number. And this number that I'm presenting here is last year's, and you can imagine all our programming is virtual. It's just amazing to see that. In our program, the programs for seniors are there to enhance social inclusion. And they help seniors to build self-sufficiencies, community ties, and social support network. We do individual sessions, we do group activities, and we do informational workshops. A lot of times, it's through the individual sessions where we hear about issues when they occur. It's less apparent in a group setting because, again, if I talk about it, maybe somebody who knows me in the group may talk about it to somebody else, and it's still hush-hush. The topics we cover: healthcare, elder abuse, seniors benefit, financial literacy. It's basically the booklet that you presented to us, Chantal, we also presented in a theme of workshops. However, the one thing that you need to keep in mind when it comes to elder abuse, it's never called elder abuse or family violence, because as soon as you say that, nobody would show up. It is as simple. Only last week, we have a women's support group, and we have conversation circles on a weekly basis. The topic of last week was to talk about family violence, and guess what? Out of a group of 25 ladies that would come, 3 showed up. That's how it is. Then what we do, we work around. We talk about building healthy relationships. We talk about de-escalating techniques where we are in a difficult conversation. We talk about type of scams and how to identify them. That's how we approach, because we have, again, still a lot to learn on how we can approach those issues. And I'm here to learn about other providers, how they do it. And I'll be happy to take those lessons and apply them in our programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Sohila. That was wonderful. I'm just going to ask that if you have questions for Sohila, that you hold on to those until we get to the end in our question and answer period, and then we can make sure that we get to them. Our next presenters are Ball and Amanda, and they are part of the Senior Protection Partnership, which is a multidisciplinary team that has members working from different organizations in collaboration together. Ball is a case manager or case management coordinator with Sage Seniors Association, focused on supporting Edmonton's South Asian community members in recognizing and responding to elder abuse. Ball is also a member of the Senior Protection Partnership, working on the intervention piece of the Immigrant Senior Project. Ball holds a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Calgary and has extensive experience working with marginalized community members in Edmonton. In addition to his social work skills and knowledge, Ball brings to his work the asset of speaking 4 languages, a genuine desire to support communities in responding to elder abuse in a meaningful way, and a great sense of humor. And joining him as well is Amanda Jansen. Amanda is a registered social worker with the Catholic Social Services. Amanda has worked in the field of family violence for 10 years, with the past 5 focusing on elder abuse. Amanda is currently an intervention social worker in the Elder Abuse Resource and Support Program. In her role as the Senior Resource Coordinator, Amanda has supported older adults experiencing low, moderate, and high-risk abuse. Amanda assists older adults through safety planning, abuse education, court support, and facilitation of the relationships with your adult children group. Welcome, Ball and Amanda. Thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you to share your PowerPoint as well.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. So Ball and I are going to be talking about the Immigrant Seniors Project with the Senior Protection Partnership. So it was a community development project that aims to enhance the Senior Protection Partnership services with immigrant seniors. Like Chantal mentioned, the Senior Protection Partnership is a collaboration, and it focuses primarily on supporting and addressing high-risk elder abuse cases within the city of Edmonton. The pilot project was working specifically with the Chinese and South Asian communities within Edmonton. During the pilot project, the information was gathered through community engagement processes by conducting formal and informal interviews and through referring to articles, conference publications, and reports. The steering committee also identified key contacts that the project coordinator reached out and connected with. The key contacts included agencies or service providers who responded to elder abuse in the immigrant communities, who responded to family violence in immigrant communities, or who worked with immigrant seniors. So this is the statistics of the backgrounds of individuals that the Senior Protection Partnership supported last year. So 3% of those individuals identified as having a Canadian visible minority background, 8% identified as immigrant. And I also just wanted to point out that usually this data is kind of based off of people's immigration status. So oftentimes we also have a lot of immigrants that are supported that are categorized in the Canadian group because that kind of represents their status at that time.
Amanda, I don't mean to jump in, but I don't know if we're seeing the same presentation as you are, only because we are stuck on best practices / strengths, and it's not in the slideshow format.
Okay, it did show that it was on my screen.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just thought I'd stop you earlier rather than you getting halfway through and us missing information.
No, that's great. Thank you. Can you see the chart now, the pie chart, or is it still stuck?
We can see the pie chart. It's not in the presentation mode, but I think that's okay as well if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Perfect. So yeah, this is the pie chart that I was referring to, just representing the Canadian visible minorities, our immigrant population, and then how people who we've worked with that have an immigration background are also lumped in that Canadian category quite significantly. So now we're going to kind of go into the different populations that the pilot project looked into and identify kind of the strengths and best practices that each of those groups can bring into working with elder abuse, some of the challenges and obstacles, as well as some words of wisdom that we've learned from our pilot project in approaching our work. So Bal, I will let you start with the next section.
Okay, next slide, please. Amanda, could you switch the slide to 5 or from?
Yeah. Is it showing service providers?
No, it's just showing 4.
Okay, maybe here.
We'll yeah, it's good. Thank you. Okay, service providers. As Amanda told, Immigrant Seniors Project, ISP Environmental Scan Report highlighted some strategies for elder abuse prevention and intervention action plan. It focused on the findings while studying Edmonton immigrant communities. The project studied minutely 3 areas of each component under the subtopic of strengths or best practices, challenges or obstacles, and words of wisdom. Now, let me talk about the best practices and strengths under service provider component. The first point under strengths or best practices is dual relationship or role. For example, service providers have professional skills and also belong to the community. Here, they can utilize the ingrained knowledge of language and culture along with the know-how of a profession. this becomes a great strength from service provider side. And next point is cultural navigator or community connector role becomes more effective when the individual has community regard or informal formal status in their community. Similarly, clients may identify a person rather than a service as preferred contact point. So seniors feel more comfortable in a trusting relationship. Service providers to companion the client and allow the client to be in control. That also becomes another best practice. To minimize the language barrier, service providers can use pictures, English to different language dictionaries that can help professionals to bridge the language barriers. And similarly, professionals use strength-based approaches. So here they look at what the seniors can do, but not what they cannot do, and help them accordingly. And professionals need to work together as allies, respecting the seniors, understanding their experiences, and support them to move ahead. In this way, the best practice or strength have been categorized into 7 points. Next slide, please. Challenges. What are the challenges from service in service provider side? We have summarized that into 7 points here as well. The first challenge comes as language barrier or communication gap. Professionals need to rely on translators. Sometimes informations are lost during translation process. And the most challenging part is that sometimes translator may not have training on domestic violence or elder abuse. So this will stress the service provider or take a lot of time to figure out. And similarly, service provider being unaware of cultural nuances sometimes lead them to feel disoriented. What happens is sometimes we forget the fact that immigrants from the same country have different cultural, language, and social practices. Generalizing or taking one way of dealing does not sound appropriate to all seniors, so we have to be selective. Interpreter. Subgrouping with client can occur, and in this situation, the chances are that frontline staff will be excluded. And this is the obstacle. But if the professional can end up taking over assessment, it also can be taken as a strength as well. And service provider may hesitate to work with their ethnic communities for fear of implications. It is because community members continuing to seek them out during personal time, over dependency of client on them due to feelings of being entitled to extra special treatment also come as challenges sometimes. Client may prioritize preference for a service provider versus their actual role. And for example, service provider may feel awkward and presented with expectations that are out of scope of their role, professional role. And similarly, other challenges that we noticed was is that there is a chance that service provider could become a scapegoat for client if the client doesn't want to take accountability of their actions or decisions. Similarly, service providers with dual roles experience extremes with clients rather than middle road. There's a black and white attitudes such as trust versus no trust or cooperation versus no cooperation. In this way, we have summarized challenges according to that this report. And there are next slide. And there are some words of wisdom projected by Environment Scan report. And they are professionals always need to take the motto of conduct good and make thorough skillful assessment before helping clients or seniors to make decisions. Utilizing of narrative approach becomes a good idea because while storytelling, we can start from the broad concept and then narrow it down in a more successful interview technique rather than pointing the questions because the latter becomes more invasive and may trigger the seniors. And confidentiality or confidential practice is very important during the service delivery process. Clients need to be assured that their information will not be shared to anyone else without their consent. In this, so now comes, this is how the report presents about service providers, opportunity, challenges, and words of wisdom. Now, Amanda, your turn, please.
Perfect. So I'm going to go over the seniors group. So some of the strengths and best practices found in seniors were that seniors were very good at helping each other and that they often nominated informal leaders within their groups. That seniors were curious lifelong learners and they liked to learn and try new things. And that they preferred value-driven learning, such as how to purchase groceries, banking, or using public transportation, versus the regulated grade-driven classes, such as English language classes that can be offered. They just found the regulated classes to be too strict and too stressful. In terms of challenges and obstacles, going to make that a bit bigger. For seniors, oftentimes money was a barrier just because they may not have access to it, especially if they're relying on their family under sponsorship. Immigration status could be a challenge in preventing them from accessing different supports. Oftentimes we've run into instances where seniors just aren't aware of the sponsorship agreement, the process, what supports or rights are involved with that, and what their sponsor's legal obligations and responsibilities are. Transportation can be difficult if they don't know how to drive, aren't sure how to use the bus, if there's challenges in utilizing the bus in the winter months, and are dependent on using family for rides. They can be very reluctant to break down relationships or get their loved ones in trouble. So they would often prefer to continue experiencing the abuse rather than take these options. We've also found, in terms of this point, situations where a senior we've worked with, often the person they're staying with and there's concerns of abuse, maybe the only family they have in Alberta or Canada. And so then it makes them feel more in a situation where they need to be more aligned in protecting their family member, and that it's more risky for them to take steps to address any abuse. People may be unfamiliar with the norms, laws, rights, and legalities in Edmonton and Canada. And this can create them confusion, uncertainty, and immigrant seniors may come across as needy or clingy. They often fear ramifications and are wary of the point of no return when reaching for outside support. Emotional abuse can include threats of deportation, buying one-way tickets, or letting passports expire. There can be challenges of isolation, loneliness, sense of loss in terms of independence, capacity or ability to help the family. They may be experiencing trauma from pre-immigration life and possible hidden addiction concerns. And some words of wisdom in terms of seniors is that as service providers, we kind of need to be aware that they will tend to feel out or test certain service providers or organizations before trusting them and fully accessing the services that they offer. That seniors have a different timeline than we may have. They may have tasks or obligations like childcare or housekeeping that keep them busy, or they may just have a different regard of time. The immigrant seniors we work with may possibly have a bias around privacy and may prefer to work with someone from their own culture versus someone who isn't. And to be aware that immigrant seniors may likely reach out to informal supports for early intervention, and that gaps and barriers can decrease the senior's self-esteem and impact their self-worth when they're reaching out for services. Perfect. Okay, and then Ball's going to go over the family aspect.
Yeah, while talking about strength and best practices of family dynamics, some families are more resourceful, often well educated, and are also with professional background. That becomes a great strength while they working. And similarly, the best practice will be help family address stressors. Target stressors in family should be in family. That might be financial, parenting, gender roles, or childcare. The best practice would be to figure out what is affecting the family. And the best way to decrease family violence will be by increasing family well-being and health. Family well-being and health may become the stressful factors and triggering them to family violence activities. Next slide, please. And challenges and obstacles. There are some challenges. One of them is family caregiving. Sometimes family may not be sure of how to navigate the resources for best caregiving practices and also not aware of what factors are affecting them. And next one is multi-generational households. And next one, wisdom keeper role has shifted to adult children. That also comes as obstacles sometimes working with family. And not understanding aging, a loss of capacity, loss of ability to help in family also becomes challenging part. For example, family expectation is high from the seniors despite their age and health situation. Cycle of abuse set up generationally also is a challenging part because sometimes when there is the chance that adult child encouraging grandchild to hit grandparent kind of situation, this kind of passing cycle of abuse is also another challenging part we need to address. And extra levels or layers of complexity in ethnic context regarding family values and dynamic. For example, language, cultural norms, power of social status play vital role to create complexity while working with seniors. And next one is increased caregiver complexity. That is signed with generation squeezed by responsibility to care for seniors and children at a time. And on top of that, language barrier, health events, need for financial support, high cultural expectations play vital role. And also adhering to traditional family roles comes as obstacle to seniors do not want to adapt to new things pretty easily. And cultural distances become mainstream and one ethnic culture. As I mentioned earlier, seniors, seniors have difficulty to adapt to the mainstream culture, but their children do. So there comes cultural distances. And the pre-existing relationship problem resulting from the life stressors, another challenging part. Similarly, family may expect senior to help out, to reciprocate sponsorship and housekeeping and child minding. For example, sponsoring a parent to with the motive of saving childcare expensive kind of scenario is a challenging part to deal with. And immigration can offset relationship dynamics too. And honor-based violence over the lifespan is also another challenging part. Intergenerational cultural distances and language barriers within the family unit. Sometimes what happens, seniors are not able to communicate with their grandchildren because they don't understand English, and they cannot speak in English, and grandchildren do not understand grandparents' language, kind of scenario. And next slide, please. And while talking of words of wisdom, we have figured out some points here. Professionals can work their best by talking to both parties in this situation in order to support family unit. Being aware that family roles are more inclusive in communities is also another part. For example, cousins are considered like siblings in most immigrant families, or aunts or uncles can be considered like surrogate parents. A household can house extended family members and multiple generations of the same family. This is also another point to take care of. And addressing target stressors in the family, such as financial issues, parenting, gender roles, and childcare, should be prioritized while working with them. And trying to decrease family violence by increasing family well-being and health also becomes paramount important, very important here. The most important thing is taking care of or looking for well-being resources for well-being and health related resources while dealing with family violence. Sometimes they come as trigger for the family violence too. Thank you. Now, Amanda.
Great. So in the aspect of community, some of the strengths and best practices are that the community has a strong communication network that quickly disperses information. They can disperse this information via the gossip or rumor mill or through radio and newspaper methods. The community is often very generous to responding to their immigrant seniors' needs by providing food, clothing, etc. Often there's natural helpers within the community, and they're key people that can connect and activate towards helping. And the communities often have many grassroots efforts that do work similar to outreach support. Some of the challenges and obstacles are that the community may lack knowledge of the systems and unaware of available resources. Subgrouping can be a challenge because the community may not be uniform. There's often pre-existing dynamics or relationships between subgroups. There can be difficulty in coordinating responses with services that aren't part of the community. The gossip and rumor mill, while a strength, can also be a challenge. The community does not discriminate between the positive and negative impact resulting from information dispersal. Shame and stigma towards individuals, families, and groups can be created, often with kind of a fear-based approach and with aggression sometimes being the response. There can be clashes in values and cultural conflicts between mainstream and immigrant and ethnic groups. The hesitancy to trust outsiders to act in accordance with values and in best interest. The community may not understand how abuse is defined or its repercussions. There can be a lack of checks and balances, lack of language and words to describe mental health challenges in some ethnic languages. There can be a revolving door of services, and there can be reactions to events in the community without gaining traction or having deeper collective responses. So in words of wisdom in terms of with the community, it can be beneficial for service providers to build the capacity of natural helpers and supporters, and to build capacity of the formal and informal leaders who can play roles of the gatekeeper or connector to the Senior Protection Partnership or wherever you're working from. There's also a value on collectivism. So vertical collectivism is based on hierarchical structures of power. And then on moral and structural conformity is therefore based on centralization. And then before we wrap up today, we'll just kind of touch on some resources that we access in Edmonton and some that can be beneficial across the province as well.
Okay, resources. We have provided some resources here in the slides. Among them, the first is LRA Views intake line. This is 780-477-2929, and it is this is the contact line in collaboration between Catholic Social Services and Seniors Protection Partnership with LRA Views contact, and people can call for information for steps of what they can do or where they can find these resources. But this LRA Views line is in Edmonton, so people in Edmonton, they can contact here, but from outside also they can call this line to get some information. That's why we put this number here. And next one is Safe House. That Safe House, this is 780-702-1520. It provides shelter for seniors experiencing abuse. It's in Edmonton. People inside Edmonton, they can contact here, and then people inside Edmonton get services here too, seniors inside the Edmonton. But for outside Edmonton too, they can call this number and get information about resources and get idea how to support seniors when they are under abuse. So we put this number here and this resource here because a Safe House has been getting lots of calls from outside Edmonton also for support and ideas. And next one is Edmonton Police Service Complaint Line, 780-423-4567, and ask for a check on welfare if you are in this line, if you are inside the Edmonton. But if you are outside Edmonton, we request you to call the local police or of that area or RCMP, whichever is available there. Similarly, gives the seniors abuse helpline, that is 780-454-8888, and encourage seniors to call this 24/7 available line. And the immigrant support services available in your area, in every cities of Alberta, will be very helpful to contact there. So we recommend all social workers to contact the immigrant senior services in your area if you are from outside Edmonton. Another resource is the Legal Aid Society of Alberta. And this provides support with the legal challenge related to immigrant, and the number is 1-866-845-3425. Next resource is Seniors Association of Greater Edmonton, and the phone number is 780-423-5510. And it has recreational programs, drop-in counseling, social workers, and develops a yearly directory of services for seniors. It's in Edmonton, and people from outside Edmonton also can contact here and get information related to services they needed for LRA Views or other seniors program. And the next one is 2-on-1 Alberta resources. So 2-on-1, it also provides a lot of resources, and you can contact there and find support from there while you need resources to deal with the LRA Views related issues to your seniors. And similarly, Senior Center. I think I already talked about that. Senior Center, there are many centers, and then you can contact them. And the most important one is family doctor as well. Your doctor and other care professionals at your doctor's office can provide resources and referrals to meet the needs when needed. in this way, we have given some, we have put here some resources that we thought it would be appropriate to share with all. So that's it. So thank you for listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul and Amanda. That was excellent information. I think it really highlights a lot of the complexities that are layered on when we're talking about cultural differences and cultural complexities onto an already complex situation. So thank you for highlighting some of those, and really for highlighting as well those best practices and looking at those holistic approaches that you mentioned, and really giving some very solid information about how people can alter their approach and maybe start making and building some of those relationships so that they can actually alter their practice and be more effective when working with older adults from diverse cultural backgrounds. So thank you very much. Now we have some time available to do some question and answer. Oh, first I'm going to say, Lori, I saw your hand up there.
There's some question and a comment in the chat box.
Okay,
So,
would you be able to read that out for us?
Sure. So the first question is for Paul. It says, are there any data about how many immigrant, ethnic, or indigenous groups are using any of these resources, and if they receive the necessary follow-up support?
Well, the data are available in the agency and for record keeping, but to be honest, I have not here to share now. But if needed, we can share it to email or any other way later. But here I have not kept any record. I have not brought anything here. I cannot get access to it here now, but there are. So definitely, we can share it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a comment here. Would have been helpful to have a case scenario to illustrate the client's journey. Would anyone, Amanda or Paul, would you like to speak to highlighting someone's journey through the process of intervention for elder abuse?
Sure. So when the Senior Protection Partnership gets a file, all of the members come together once a week and review new files and talk about what information has been presented and come up with a plan of who needs to be involved to support that senior. So oftentimes because the focus of the Immigrant Seniors Project was on Chinese and South Asian communities, we accessed assist community services quite frequently when we had clients with a Chinese background to provide that translation support and to also kind of support us in navigating the cultural challenges around talking about abuse and how to kind of gently approach that so that we could be as supportive for them as possible in terms of safety planning, educating them on abuse, providing court support. We've also found getting supportive healthy members involved really helpful as well. So sometimes that gets pulled on too. Just to kind of make the service as accessible as possible. Oftentimes, we'll kind of focus on doing the intervention and then passing them on to a support that they're most comfortable with for follow-up and kind of maintenance for however long is needed.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Amanda. Pat, I see your hand up.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Retired social worker, City of Edmonton, formerly with Seniors Protection Partnership. And you mentioned the pilot project, which I was involved with as far as a supervisor. Social worker, Garima Khatri, did such wonderful work to do that initial gathering of information and connecting with people in the Chinese and South Asian communities. So I guess my question around the project as it is now, where I guess Paul, as the lead on this, where do you feel you're at with that now? I see a number of the things reported, I believe, are from the initial work that was done by Garima. Am I correct in that? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just so following up on that, kind of just to get an idea of where you're at, because it's exciting to see it alive and still on paper and not somewhere else in file 13, as they say. And the work continues and the passion continues. So I'm just wondering, where do you feel you're at with the latest sort of follow-up, I guess, on the previous project, and what kind of work do you see yourself doing now and continuing to doing going forward?
Is it for me or for Amanda? Your question, or for both?
I'll leave it open to both of you. Either one.
Okay. Can you, Amanda, share you first, and then I will add up some, because you have been your experience you shared me for that one too. Sounds very appropriate here.
Well, I'll let you talk more directly about the part about your position, Ball, and what you're doing in terms of the Immigrant Seniors Project forward. But I know after the pilot project kind of concluded, there was kind of a pause. We kind of continued the approaches in terms of doing the intervention work that was developed during the pilot project, and that's remained consistent, but it hasn't kind of built and grown further. And I understand, Ball, that's kind of where your position is coming in now. I believe Ball just started with us within the last 2 months, and he's gonna help bring the Immigrant Seniors pilot project forward and grow on it and continue that work.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to add anything, Ball, kind of a bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the pilot project started, and then I joined this group just 2 months ago, and I have initiated basically my focus on South Asian communities. And there are certain programs like outreach and reaching out the community and finding out what resources they need and what we can help them to do based on this pilot project. So it is on now in the outreach project. It's still an outreach stage now. So we are working on it and going ahead. So there are a lot more things to go ahead, and there is a long journey to go ahead again to make this project into the, let's say, into the tangible form, or let's say result-oriented form. So we are working on that.
Good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't want to put you on the spot, as you're just probably just diving in, and it's going to take a while to sort of, I guess, really understand what your best approach is going to be, going from a more of a community development approach and moving it to the outreach and so on. So thank you.
Thanks, great question. Lori, was there some more in our
Yes.
chat box?
Yes,
Great.
there's quite a few more.
Okay.
Another question here for any of the speakers today. The experiences of elder abuse among immigrants can be quite different for men and women. Has this been taken into consideration when doing this type of research? So this could, Suhila, would you like to take this one? Okay.
Yeah, and again, I didn't do the research myself. I've been looking and reading intensively the last few weeks. And again, there was this research study that was done, and we can see that elder women are more prevalent, to be again, in terms of demographics percentage, in the immigrant population, we have more women than men. That's one thing, like, to start with. But in terms of when we talk about elder abuse, there was this study that only focused on elder women, and and if you see the example that I pulled in was mainly about women who were ready to talk about their experiences. We can see that women are more prevalent to be under this kind of situation than men. And again, if we have to take in consideration the cultural background, before being an elder already, from some cultures, the woman doesn't have an equal voice. Already, she comes with the luggage that is, certain situations are okay. And this is why, when we talk about, people don't even realize, that they are being abused, because they have been treated like that all their life. It's what change is really their age, the environment that changed for them. But the difference, the vulnerability comes for women here because there is no connection. Back home, she can talk to a neighbor. She can talk to a relative. She can have a break by going, for a tea, just, to visit a family member. And she has the opportunity just to vent out. Here, even that possibility to vent out is not there. And the concern really, when we talk about, and to me, and I'm still learning in that aspect, the concern that I see is not for people who are accessing and talking about what they are going through. My concern is for those who we don't know about, those who don't have access to this programming that we offer, those who don't know that they can talk, or they don't have the ability to talk. And this is why, again, I talked about the crisis. The numbers that we saw were from 2004. Honestly, if you talk what happened from 2004 to now, we talk about 2 major economic collapses. And we know that one of the stressors and one of the elements that trigger violence is really is financial. Then just thinking about that, and we put this in the incremental little things that happen during life, we know that the numbers are not reflecting reality. And people, we know that since 2005, we have, the government had funding to offer classes, English classes for senior immigrant. There are some recreational programs that seniors can access for free. But again, you have to keep in mind, for people, they are not accessing classes or accessing recreational programs is a luxury. It's not something that they can do. One example, one lady that we have in one of our programs, I think it took her maybe, she has been with us for more than a year, and it took her about 9 months to be able to tell her daughter, when she asked her to do things, that I have a class today. This is my own time. Then I'm not going to be with you. You have to take care of your own things. I'm not going to cook, or I'm not going to watch the kids. She was able to dedicate her own time. For people who access, we are able to build these skills and give them those tools to allow them to call it and say no. The worry is about those who don't have access, who are not leaving the house, who are not, who have no means to know that we are there to provide those supports. So I would say, just based on the demographics, the cultural background of the population that we deal with, yes, women are more likely to be subject to elder abuse in all the forms that we talked about than men.
Thank you very much, Soheila. There's several comments in in the chat box. I just want to highlight that we have 6 minutes left. And so I'm just going to give you some broad information. A resource that can be accessed is through the province is the Family Violence Info Line at 310-1818. And it's available 24 hours a day in 170 different languages for information and referrals. Many congratulations and thank yous for the great presentations for all 3 presenters today. And then I'm not sure, there's several questions here yet. So maybe we could speak quickly on, is there support for rural communities? Maybe Chantal, you would take that one.
Sure. So I think that it varies throughout the province, obviously, and it also depends on the cultural group that we're looking at as to what resources might be available. So I think that I can't speak that broadly, at least not to my knowledge, unless someone else wants to jump in if they're aware of something. But I think it just depends on the pockets that you're living in. So what I would suggest is that maybe you reach out to some of your immigrant services that might be in communities that are located around you. There might also be some cultural groups that might be able to connect you into some of those diverse cultures. I know in the south, between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, we have an area that has a lot of Mexican Mennonites, for example. That's a very unique culture that requires some, I think, connections into that group through, again, some of the best practices that have been highlighted today in making connections in with senior leadership and with the religious groups and religious leaders and things like that. So I'm not aware of an overall one, but I think it's worth continuing a conversation, perhaps even that we look at what there might be available out there for rural settings, or how we can develop some of those out of some of these best practice suggestions. And maybe that's a conversation that we could continue into the new year and look at hosting through this Core Alberta platform, would be a suggestion that I have if people are interested in that.
Thank you, Chantal. Another point here is that people recognize that the session is being recorded and would be available on Core Alberta. However, there are some that would like to have the slides. And is that possible, Chantal?
I guess we'd have to ask our presenters. So I know we didn't talk about this, Bal and Amanda or Sahila, but if you'd be willing to share your slides afterwards, we could make sure that we attach them into the email that we send out regarding the survey and follow-up information. So maybe I'll connect afterwards with the presenters and ask for their permission. And even if we can get some of the information, that would be very helpful to our attendees, it sounds like.
Thank you. Suhila, there's a direct question for you, please. Is it possible to obtain more information about the York University study that you spoke about? Would you have a link or something that you could put in the chat box for us?
Yeah, I will again, I can answer the question, Chantal. I'll be happy to share the slides, and in the slides, you can access all the links to the papers that I mentioned. You have all the resources, then yes, should be okay.
That's a wonderful way to do that. Thank you. Great. Is that it, Lori? I think we're just kind of pushing to the end of our time here today.
It isn't, but I think we won't be able to get to all the rest of the questions. Lots of great interest, and just want to say thank you. And maybe there's a way that people can directly link to the presenters if they have follow-up questions, or with you, Chantal.
That would be great. Yeah, absolutely. So I will put my email address in the chat box. And if our presenters felt like doing that as well, that would be an opportunity that you would be able to reach out and connect directly if you'd like. As well, we will have the survey coming out. So if you have some comments about what you'd like to see as far as future presentations or conversations that we can help facilitate, we would love to hear that. Our goal in this elder abuse group is really to increase your knowledge, help you to be able to have the tools that you need to do the work in your communities with older adults and improving their lives and being able to provide resource and support to those who are experiencing elder abuse. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our presenters again today. It has been amazing to have you join us. I think it's been a wonderful session for this Family Violence Prevention Month as to where to turn when you're working with diverse communities and cultures. I know I've learned a lot. I want to thank all the participants for joining us today and for your engagement. As mentioned, there will be a link that's put in the chat box if it's not already in there that you can click on to do the survey, or we will be following up as well with an email so that you're able to do that. We just want to highlight for you that if you're interested in joining the elder abuse group on CORE Alberta, you can go to www.corealberta.ca and sign up. And then there's a group section where you can find elder abuse. As well, we do have some upcoming events happening in January through the Elder Abuse Group. Our first one will be happening on January 13th at 1:30, which is Sarah Ramsey and Elf Ma from the Senior Protection Partnership and Elder Abuse area are going to be speaking about the work that they're doing in Edmonton and a bit more around those collaborations and how it works together. And then on January 18th, we're part of a frailty series that is happening through CORE Alberta, and we'll be speaking to frailty and elder abuse and how there's some connection, but also some capacity building and strengths-based approaches we can take. So we hope that you'll be able to join us. For more information on those, please visit CORE Alberta. Thank you all for your time today. Have a wonderful rest of your day and take care.